Cover for adjunctive therapies is quite important here, because by adjunctive therapies I mean people who do dry needling, who do ultrasound, electrotherapy, shockwave therapy, maybe they do hypnotherapy within their own practice, but it's not their core business of osteopathy or chiropractic.
That's I say we, all of the different insurers treat this slightly differently. Our perspective is that if you are an osteopath or a chiropractor, then if you are trained to do anything, including all of those adjunctive therapies within your practice, providing you've been trained to do it, you're insured to do it.
Right. Okay. I think when I've looked at the BCA's policy, and people need to be very sure that they are insured if they're doing these things. I think the BCA's policy, possibly the IO's policy, I'm not sure, says that, for example, dry needling, where you've had some problems recently, they don't accept weekend courses, but anything longer than that they will accept.
All of the requirements differ quite markedly, so do take care and basically ask to read the policy before you buy it.
Yeah.
I think that we're the only people who will give you everything that you need, because it's all covered under the chiropractic thing, but you need to tell us what you're doing if it's outside of that. So for example, if you're a medical, or we call it the medical osteopath, who might do being spinal injections or something like that, there is a higher rate for that because it's a higher risk.
Right. Okay. And I mentioned, I said you had problems with dry needling. You've had some claims arising from dry needling recently because of punctured lungs, I think.
Indeed. Well, that's the one area where probably the other insurers have pushed their prices up because of events similar to that.
Yeah. I was quite impressed when I asked you about this after we ran some courses here in dry needling. You didn't want to see the qualifications of the instructors. You said as long as they are respected people who know their stuff, then you're happy to accept that.
Well, the way that we write our insurance generally is on, I suppose the principle of insurance is utmost good faith. So if the client tells us, if our insured person tells us that he's had the right training for doing it, then we will take his word for it. If they're an osteopath, they have to go through certain hoops to be an osteopath anyway. And we only say that you have to have the training appropriate to the service that you're providing your clients.
Yeah. And I guess, and I raised this with you at the time, I guess if you have gone on a 3-day dry needling course, such as the ones we run here, and you decide to do a technique which wasn't taught in those 3 days, which we can easily show from the course records, then you wouldn't be covered for that. You've got to be honest about.
Well, indeed, the insurance would have the right to share the cost of the claim with you, might be a nice way of putting it.
Right.
And it depends on how much of that treatment was relevant and how far down the line you'd gone. I don't want to draw a black and white line. Black and white line, the idea of that. Yeah. Because it's one of those, if people look after themselves, if they train themselves properly, then we respect their judgment as to what that is, and we will look after them accordingly.